Welcome, everyone, to Saturday Showcase presented by 5 Hour Energy. You're watching the ACC on ESPN. From Cameron Indoor Stadium, we take a look at the ACC standings before Clemson and Duke get ready to take the court in what is a late January showdown. Here you see the top of the standings. It does appear that Virginia and Florida State have separated just a bit. Meanwhile, Duke and Clemson, middle of the pack, a big opportunity here this afternoon. And welcome, everybody, along with Corey Alexander. I'm Doug Sherman. Glad you could be here today. And Mike Krzyzewski is the all-time winningest coach in college basketball history. But, Corey, we saw on Tuesday against Georgia Tech, every single win still means a lot to Coach K.
It really does. And, Doug, in a conversation about 5 years ago, Coach K taught me something very important. I mentioned to him, well, Coach, once you get to the NCAA tournament, and he stopped me in mid-sentence and simply said, Corey, you don't take for granted that you're going to make it. And when you look at this video footage from Coach K on Tuesday night and when they clinched the win over Georgia Tech, you see the excitement, the exuberance of a coach in his 41st year conducting Duke University basketball program, and he was excited about it, not taking it for granted. And speaking of not taking anything for granted, Brad Brownell, when you consider how well his team was playing up to number 12 in the country before they went on their COVID pause, since then losing 3 straight games but still have big wins over Alabama, over FSU, and getting a win on Wednesday night over Louisville, they take nothing for granted, knowing that coming into this building, Amir Sims has never won, nor have the Tigers won at Cameron Indoor since 1995.
Although keep in mind, the last time these two schools met was at Littlejohn, and Clemson beat Duke in an upset last year. Duke with the basketball first at the point. Jordan Goldwire gets the start along with DJ Stewart, Wendell Moore, Jalen Johnson, and Matthew Hurt. Behind the back pass goes out of bounds, deflected by the Tigers, so Duke will keep.
And a change to the starting lineup for Coach K. Jeremy Roach had actually started at the point guard position over the last few games, but Jordan Goldwire stepping up big in their win over Georgia Tech offensively and defensively and earning the start here this afternoon.
Yeah, Coach K said of that game against Georgia Tech, Jordan Goldwire, quote, was as good a game as he has played at Duke.
Well, and Goldwire is going to be a difference maker for the Blue Devils as Wendell Moore is off the mark for the first shot attempt up against the shot clock. But when you think about the veteran experience and leadership, which Duke has been lacking throughout this season, Jordan Goldwire has to be that guy that provides it. You have to look back at his career at Duke. He's been there through a number of big moments, played with a bunch of great players, but now it's his turn to be the leader for the Blue Devils.
Yeah, Coach K told us yesterday how he has grown into it. Last year we saw it where he and Trey Jones were really disruptive defensively, and now he's playing even a bigger role with Trey onto the NBA, and Jordan back in a starting role here this afternoon. And the Blue Devils on the board first with the mid-range jump shot by Hurt.
And when you consider Matthew Hurt has been the most consistent player for the Blue Devils all season long, really one of the most consistent players in the country, hasn't gotten a lot of help from his teammates on a consistent basis, but he has been spectacular. Every time out, he's had at least 12 points and 6 rebounds, and right now the second leading scorer in the ACC is off to a great start early in this one.
Yeah, second in scoring, third in rebounding is Hurt, averaging 19.2 points, 8.2 rebounds per game, and certainly in the mix for ACC Player of the Year. Off the bounce, Newman, no. This is a Clemson team that began the season 9-1, and earlier this month ranked as high in the AP poll as number 12. But they had a COVID pause, missed a couple of weeks, and came out of it losing 3 straight games. But I tell you what, Corey, Coach Brownell said that before their last game against Louisville, they kind of got their mojo back. They've gone back to work and have gotten that Clemson grit back in play.
Well, and Coach Brownell also told us that during that COVID pause and really by not having practice for 7 days, he felt like his team lost that competitive edge that had gotten them to the point to where they were. You look at the first 9 games at the 9-1, but more importantly, you look at the opponent points per game. In the last 4 games, 74.5 points per game. Virginia put up 85 on them at Littlejohn Coliseum. Florida State put up a huge number, but they actually held Louisville to 50 points on Wednesday, getting back to that Brad Brownell style of defense that they're playing. The offense has not recovered yet since the COVID pause, but defensively, they're back to being the Tigers we got used to seeing.
Pick and roll sets up Sims on the reverse. He's got the Tigers on the board.
Brad Brownell just raves about Amir Sims, just talks about his versatility is his greatest strength. The fact that he doesn't do any one thing great, does a lot of things really, really good, but no one thing great. But the fact that he can do so many things is what makes him great as a college basketball player, not only on the defensive end of the floor, but also offensively.
A defensive breakdown gets an easy 2 for Matthew Hurt.
A little caught in between a switch and hedging and getting back. Amir Sims had to stay out front with Wendell Moore. Someone lost track of Matthew Hurt, which I'm not sure how that could possibly happen.
Sims off the feed from Trapp, misfires. Rebound pulled down by Wendell Moore Jr. Stewart pull up inside the three-point line for 2.
When we talk about making his way, freshman DJ Stewart is the leading ACC freshman scorer with 14 points per game in ACC play this year. And he continues to get better on a nightly basis. And you consider that he is really the most consistent perimeter threat for the Blue Devils, who seem to always have someone that can get buckets on the perimeter.
And here he comes again, attacking the rim. Offensive foul. It'll be Clemson basketball when we come back. Our first media timeout from Cameron. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by 5-Hour Energy Shots. Get it done. And in part by Zaxby's. Hand-breaded chicken and fresh ingredients made to order only at Zaxby's. For the first time in 5 months, there's no football, so what else do? You sit and watch ESPN college basketball. What a lineup today. Deuce McBride for West Virginia. And then, Corey, you've got Baylor at 4 o'clock against Auburn.
And then the Commonwealth Cup, baby. Virginia at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. Kansas, Tennessee at 6 p.m. on ESPN. And then the #1 team in the country, Gonzaga and Pepperdine tonight at 8.
We've got 1 and 2 both on our air between Gonzaga and Baylor all afternoon and evening on the ESPN networks. Coach K leading his Duke Blue Devils to a 6-2 start over Clemson at Cameron Indoor Stadium on Coach K court.
And out of the timeout, a little full-court 2-2-1 pressure from Duke. But going back into the man-to-man, and one of the things we've seen from the Blue Devils over the past few games, they have implemented the zone. So interesting to see going back, but it results in a turnover from Clemson. Confusion with Brad Brownell catching the basketball. And, of course, not happy about the fact that it's thrown to him. Coach Brownell not throwing it back to anyone, though. He just drops it like, like you hit a game winner or something. Just walk off the court, just drop it and roll it out. But Brad Brownell's done a tremendous job. 11th season now as Clemson head coach. Doesn't get the credit that he deserves as a basketball coach. A great defensive mind. But back in the day, I can tell you, Dougie Fresh, Brad Brownell was a big-time shooter. I can remember when he came to Clemson, and he was the best shooter on his team in shoot-arounds, which wasn't necessarily a confidence booster to his team when the coach is out there beating him in pregame.
No, he was a Division III baller at DePaul. That's back in Indiana. He's a Evansville boy, and I noticed that another Evansville boy who's coming off a good game last time out, Alex Hemingway, has come off the bench for Clemson. Tigers still cold at that end of the floor to begin the ball game.
Yeah, you talk about Brad Brownell as a shooter, but he and Alex Hemingway, father, actually played soccer together, believe it or not. So Brad Brownell not only nice with the hands, but great with the feet. Now, you have to be good with your hands and feet if you go to a university named DePaul, correct?
Yes.
Come on, Dougie Fresh, you got to be quicker than that. DePaul, you see what I did there? You just gonna let that go?
I did, but there's a U in DePaul as opposed to PAW. So I like what you did, but, come on.
See, what you're going to make me do is have to put DePaul on you now for that.
Well, it's a good thing I'm in my home in New York and you're in your home in North Carolina, so you can't get to me.
Jeremy Roach checking into the game for Duke now, and DJ Stewart, Jalen Johnson, 2 freshmen take a break. And you add another McDonald's All-American high-level freshman to DJ Stewart picking up his 2nd foul. So we're going to see how that works out for the Blue Devils as Mark Williams also checks into the game, who's getting more minutes, had 6 points and 6 rebounds over Georgia Tech on Tuesday night. in 13 minutes, the most extended minutes he's had in a while for the Blue Devils.
Moore, nice feed to the low post. And we've got a foul call with Mark Williams, the 7-foot freshman from Virginia Beach, coming off a really good performance Tuesday against Georgia Tech. Early minutes here this afternoon for the Blue Devils. Young man out of Norfolk Academy. He is now only 1 for 4 from the free throw line, and big changes for the Clemson lineup. But for Mark Williams, what has he done now to show Coach K, Corey, that he deserves more minutes in late January?
Well, one of the things he can do, Doug, he can protect the rim, a big-time shot blocker. And when you're Duke and you play defense really out in the passing lanes, oftentimes guys will get backdoored or you can get beaten off the dribble because they don't really like to allow you to run your offense. And so when you do that, you need to have a shot blocker in the back, which they've had over the past few seasons. When you consider Zion Williamson, you consider Vernon Carey. But this year, early in the year, they didn't have anyone back there protecting the rim, which is why teams were getting whatever they wanted against Duke on the offensive end of the floor. But Mark Williams has been a difference maker for them on the defensive end.
And he's been putting in a lot of extra work lately with assistant coach Nate James to help build his game. He sets the ball screen. Clean look for Goldwire, a little strong. Hemingway clears the rebound for Clemson.
Right now, you look at Clemson's numbers, 1 for 7 from the field and 2 turnovers as Alamir Doss is unable to come away with the mid-range jumper. But it's been a struggle for Clemson offensively, really, since they've come back from that COVID pause. One good shooting game against Georgia Tech, but in that game, they also had 18 turnovers that did them in. So right now, Brad Brownell trying to find a way to get this team back operating the way they were offensively. The defense, I believe, has returned. However, Mark Williams coming up with a big bucket and opportunity for the and one, going over top of the fellow freshman P.J. Hall.
A 6-0 run for the Blue Devils. They're up by 6.
And you consider the fact that really Mark Williams is one of the very few guys that the Blue Devils are going to throw the basketball to on the post, and the 7-footer using nice footwork and the strength to be able to finish through P.J. Hall. And they do go to, of course, Matthew Hurt on the block. But Hurt isn't really a back-of-the-basket guy. He does more of his damage as a face-up, as well as the Dirk Nowitzki one-leg fadeaway, which is money for the ACC's second leading scorer when he gets it on the block.
Yeah, Matt Hurt said he spent much of the quarantine over the summer and early fall working on that shot, that patented step back, and it really is part of his arsenal. Dawes breaks the seal once again for Clemson.
And Alamir Dawes, who had a big game, 15 points for him versus Louisville, and had only scored, combined 10 points in the 3 previous games before that. So he's been shooting the ball better, and right now playing with a lot more confidence. But we talked with Brad Brownell yesterday. He told us that Dawes was dealing with injury, but decided just to try to gut it out and fight through it in comparison to going the Corey Alexander route, which would be get treatment.
Off the steal. Johnson punches it.
Let me start with P.J. Hall. I respect your effort, young fella, but you've got to know your personnel. If Jalen Johnson gets out in full court, do not challenge it. You only find yourself on the wrong side of a Duke post.
The 6'9" freshman from Milwaukee announces his arrival in this ball game. I wonder if his draft grade might have just gone up. He's already supposed to be in the lottery. Can he get in the conversation, Corey, for maybe #1 overall? Come on.
I believe so. We're going to have a conversation with Mike Schmitz after our next time out to see just about that. But that play looked eerily similar to a play I watched Jalen. You probably can look it up on YouTube for the Phenom U Nike EYBL program. He got out in the break. Isaiah Todd, who's another superstar playing for the NBA G League Unite team. And Isaiah Todd made the wrong decision, just like P.J. Hall just made on that one. Oh, I love the effort, but you just got to know who you're dealing with. And Jalen Johnson, as athletic as they get in college basketball, we're going to be seeing that one. We're going to be seeing that one a lot today. When you check SportsCenter top 10, it may be one of the plays of the week.
And I tell you what, that's just another illustration that that foot injury is a thing of the past for Jalen Johnson. A lob over the top for Williams.
And Mark Williams making an immediate impact for the Blue Devils coming into this game. You talked about his game against Georgia Tech, and his confidence has grown significantly just in the past week when you consider he wasn't really getting much action at all, but getting the job done offensively and defensively on this last possession.
Yeah, he has been the spark of a 12-3 run. Here goes Johnson to work again. Kicks it out to Goldwire. Inside they go. The lob again to Williams. Got a fingertip on it, but couldn't control it. Well, as promised, when we come back, that man will join us, NBA draft analyst Mike Schmitz, and we'll get his thoughts on Jalen Johnson and the hammer brought down at Cameron today. Back at Cameron Indoor Stadium, we are so glad to be joined now by Mike Schmitz, ESPN's NBA draft analyst. Mike, welcome. Along with Corey Alexander, I'm Doug Sherman, and we just got a glimpse at the terrific freshman for Duke, Jalen Johnson. He's taken one shot so far in the game, and it was spectacular. Where do you have him going in your mock draft, and how does he project at the next level for you?
Yeah, we have him as the 6th overall prospect, and he's really the epitome of positionless basketball. When you talk about his ability to guard almost 5 positions, he's incredible in the open court. 6'9", 6'10", strong, explosive, can handle, makes everyone around him better. Still needs to improve as a perimeter shooter. I think that's really the only reason he's not projected in our top 5. But you see glimpses of Ben Simmons in the open court, or a young Boris Diaw, or Aaron Gordon. So teams really like his floor because of the versatility.
Mike, when you consider, Jalen, and to me, the best part of his game is actually his passing ability. When you look at him, is he a guy, and you mentioned Ben Simmons, is he a guy that you could go in an NBA franchise and say, maybe we can put this guy as our point guard the way the Philly did with Ben Simmons?
I think the key, if you do that, is just so he has to prove that he can make enough shots. And we've seen it with Ben. They've shifted him all over the floor. But if teams are going under screens, I think he's got to keep you honest. And that's the main question with him. Can he score enough in the half court to be like your go-to guy? But he does everything else on the floor. I mean, he can play out of the post. You said in transition, his ability to make everyone around him better is special. His IQ for the game, his motor. So he checks so many different boxes. I don't really see him as a point guard at the next level, more as like that Swiss Army knife combo forward that you see in today's game.
Duke extends its lead with the triple. It's now 17-5. Joey Baker off the bench for his first points.
Mike, when you talk about Jalen Johnson and you consider the guys that you have at the top of your draft board, when you consider Cade Cunningham and you think about Jalen Green, Jonathan Kuminga, where do you put Jalen regarding those guys, and how is it that you feel as though they may be ahead of him right now, and what could make that change?
Yeah, I would go Cade at number 1 overall, just because his versatility and his ability to shoot it, to score it at all 3 levels, make everyone around him better. I think he's a clear number 1 to me in this class. Evan Mobley is a complete stud. I'm based out here in LA, so I'm able to see him, pretty much every game. And his versatility defensively shows you glimpses of kind of a young Anthony Davis. So I think that Jalen's probably like right at the beginning of that next tier. I think this top 5 is pretty strong when you talk about those two at the top, the scoring ability of a guy like Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, who's already the best player on the best team in the country at that age, and then Kuminga, who's a two-way wing, kind of in that Jaylen Brown mode. So I think if Jalen Johnson were to prove that, hey, I'm a 35% three-point shooter, I'm going to be able to make enough shots, then I think he enters that top 5 tier.
And Mike, in this game, who else do you have your eye on? Who else is on the radar of NBA scouts?
Yeah, Matt Hurt is obviously a guy who, made a big jump this season, shooting the ball incredibly well from 3, 46%. He's got good size, he moves well. He's still improving defensively as a passer in the toughness department, but certainly you can see him projecting as kind of a stretch 4 at the next level. And then DJ Stewart is a guy I've always been high on when you look toward the future. I'm not sure he's a this-year guy, but he's a jet with the basketball. He's ultra skilled, and he's improving as a shooter. I could see him having like a Kyra Lewis type of sophomore season if he chooses to come back.
And Mike, really quickly, as we are getting close to where we'd be taking a timeout, just want to ask you real quick, when you consider the fact that the G League Ignite team is now in action, what would be your biggest differences between what you look at from the guys playing in the G League in comparison to the guys who decided to come to play college basketball?
Yeah, it's a big jump for them. They're playing against Jeremy Lin, Yogi Ferrell, Miles Powell, guys who have already done it both at the collegiate level and the NBA level. So I don't think you're expecting them to come out and score 20 points and grab 10 rebounds and dish out 10 assists. It's more, are you efficient in your role? Are you impacting winning? Are you competing? Are you making the right play? And that's what NBA scouts want to see from these guys. But they're going to get a good sample, 15 to 20 games out in Orlando, where scouts can really sit down and dig in on these guys. But I really think that they have 2 top 5 picks out there with this G League Ignite team.
And just to hit Clemson, we just saw Amir Sims at the free throw line. He's their senior leader. Does he project? Where might he be able to land professionally in your eyes?
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if he's on a roster someday, to be honest. I really liked him last year, and looking this year, he didn't make the jump as a perimeter shooter, you would hope. But I really like his size, his mobility, maybe in a JaMychal Green type of role at the next level.
Mike, thank you so much for your time.
Studio, Alabama, Oklahoma over on ESPN. The Tide unbeaten in SEC play, but Davion Harmon and the Sooners open the game on an 11-2 run. They haven't let up much since. 8 for Harmon right now, Doug. Oklahoma 17-13 lead.
Kevin, thanks so much. And yes, the Sooners are getting it done without Austin Reeves and without Alondis Williams. They are both out today due to COVID protocols. So, Corey, the Sooners doing okay so far.
They're doing much better than I was expecting, with that, especially when you consider what Reeves does for that team. But my man Davion Harmon getting it done early. A young man who knows about winning. 2 gold medals for him as well for USA basketball. So Davion Harmon stepping up on the big stage, getting it done for Oklahoma, playing under man is Jeremy Roach. Steps up and knocks down the 3, the second basket for Roach, who hadn't actually scored in 2 games, but now 5 points for him, 2 for 2 field goals coming off the bench in this game in comparison to his starting role that he's been in really for about the last 6 or 7 games with Blue Devils.
Nick Honor gets those 3 back, and I'll tell you what, the Duke reserves are outscoring the starters so far 13 to 9 for their total of 22 points.
Well, and when you consider the Blue Devils team and you think about who their reserves actually are, Jeremy Roach, McDonald's All-American, Mark Williams, McDonald's All-American. Again, it's not as though they're bad players coming in, young, but not bad players at all.
We have a full day of college hoops today on ESPN and the app. Number 15 Kansas squares off against number 18 Tennessee in Knoxville at 6 Eastern. And then at 8 we've got the number 1 team in the nation, Gonzaga, taking on Pepperdine in a West Coast Conference clash. And I understand there will not be snow in Malibu for that game tonight like they had last weekend. Can you believe that, Corey? Snow in Malibu, California.
I cannot believe that, but, you know, in 2020, 2021 season, I guess anything is believable at this point, so we probably shouldn't be surprised by it. I tell you what I do like. Matthew Hurt's beard game is strong. I can appreciate what he has going on around the chin area right now.
So while he's in the mix for potentially being most improved player in the ACC, you think he might also be most improved in the facial hair game?
Oh, absolutely, facial hair game. And again, you know, as far as most improved, I believe that he will have a case when you consider he's scoring over 9 points per game than he did a year ago. But he was really good last year as a freshman, too. And you think about the other guys in that conversation with, you know, Quincy Guerrier as well as Isaiah Wong. Those guys didn't have the impact that Matthew Hurt had a year ago. Matthew Hurt had a 2010 game last year against Virginia Tech. I mean, he's had double-doubles in the past. You know, so he's a guy that's going to be – it's going to be tough for him to get it simply because he was so good last year as a freshman.
And you know what? Where would the Blue Devils be this year without him? You know, he's been shooting very, very well from the perimeter, 46%. His teammates, though, without him, only shooting 29% from beyond the three-point line. Timeout at Cameron. We'll be right back after this.
Dougie Fresh, from someone that knows a little bit about facial hair, this is respectable from my man Matthew Hurt, coming out with a beard game, but, you know, not too much, just enough to let you know that he can grow. And Matthew Hurt, you know, who put on 25 pounds during the offseason, has really improved his game with his back to his basket. Not that he's going to really overpower guys, but his ability to shoot the one-leg Dirk Nowitzki turnaround fadeaway at such a high percentage has really made him a spectacular post player to go along with the knockdown shooter that he's been his entire life.
And Corey, I'll tell you what, one thing in Duke's favor, Sims feed inside, nice job to finish with the left hand John Newman. Duke now, I think, has two guys who you can comfortably say they can play through either in late game situations. Matthew Hurt, of course, and now Jalen Johnson.
So are you discounting DJ Stewart?
No, but until he does, like both Jalen Johnson and DJ Stewart continue to adjust to the college game. I mean, it's a much more physical game than they have been accustomed to, as you know, better than I do, certainly. And we saw in their game against Georgia Tech, Jalen multiple times late and one. Traditional three-point plays playing through contact. I don't know if we've seen as much of that from DJ just yet, but either way, they've got two, and if you want to make it three, it all bodes well for the Blue Devils.
Well, just like Amir Sims, I'm going to make it three, because when you consider what DJ Stewart does, and, you know, we talk a lot about Jalen Johnson, and deservedly so. He is a special talent. But when you talk about being a very good college basketball player, DJ Stewart in his debut scored 24 points. Now, everyone talked about the 19 points, 19 rebounds that Jalen Johnson had, but DJ Stewart scored 24 points in that game. He's averaging 14.7 points per game in ACC play as a freshman, which is more than his teammate Jalen Johnson or any other freshman in the league, and also shooting 46%. So when you think about those numbers, DJ Stewart, to me, is adjusting very well to the game. And when you consider the fact that he is a perimeter player that can put up heavy numbers for the Blue Devils.
Sims commits the foul. Here's our big Monday games on ESPN and the app. Duke squares off against Miami at 7 Eastern. Then we head to the Big 12 for the matchup of the night. Number 24, Oklahoma, takes on number 10, Texas Tech in Lubbock. And again, we don't know if Reeves and Williams will be available. They are in the COVID protocol and missing Oklahoma's game this afternoon.
Of course, we talk a lot about Johnson and Stewart, and they both check back into the game. DJ Stewart playing with the 2 fouls as Matthew Hurt continues to perform on a high level right now. And, you know, we talked about Clemson and really just having a hard time finding their shooting touch since they've returned from the COVID protocol and the pause that they were on for 10 days. And right now, the Tigers 6 for 22 from the field at only 27.3%. They have made 3 of their 9 3-pointers, but, you know, that is also a change from where they were. Clemson has taken 30 and 35 3-pointers in their last 2 games. So even the number of attempts is down against the Blue Devils, who play out in the passing lanes, don't give up as many threes as many teams do when you pack it in defensively.
See the points off the turnovers, 12-0 in favor of the Blue Devils. Nice drive and finish for Clyde Trapp.
And that's where I honestly believe that Clemson needs more production from. And Clyde Trapp, who has battled injuries, and Brad Brownell raves about how he is as a teammate, and then I love Clyde Trapp as a person. But he is better than his numbers are right now. And as a senior, I believe they need more from him, especially on the defensive end where there's a miscommunication allowing Jeremy Roach to knock down another. I'm sorry, that was Stewart knocking down the three.
Off the pick and roll, right to the rim to throw it down. Clemson gets to 20 points on the slam by Sims.
And Clemson looks as though they're finding something that they can attack on the offensive end, but now it's simply about getting stops. Can they find a way to slow down the Blue Devils, who are firing on all cylinders on the offensive end of the floor?
Jamin Brakefield, who has had trouble getting onto the floor the last 3 games since Johnson came back from the foot injury, getting out there and has the basketball now for Duke. Foul on the pass. It's a blocking foul against Sims.
Brad Brownell wanted to be able to attack Duke in the pick and roll, and they do it to perfection, but still trailing by 12. They're going to need more.
Coach K's remembrances a little bit later on as well of his dear friend and fellow Hall of Famer John Chaney. In this ball game, Clemson, the good news, they've made 6 of their last 9 shots. The bad news is, as we see, Corey, big-time foul trouble.
And when you consider the fact that 3 fouls on Amir Sims not only affects him here the remaining of the first half, but also the second half where you only have 2 to play with, and his reserve, P.J. Hall, with 3 fouls as well, Jonathan Baird with 2. So the entire front court that Brad Brownell is used to being able to play in foul trouble, and P.J. Hall back in the game with those 3 fouls. Coach Brownell understanding that right now is not much he can do. Just let him go ahead and try to play through it. But that's definitely risky dealing with the freshman.
Well, what Coach K told us yesterday about dealing with Amir Sims, and Sims hurt him in the win at Clemson last year. He said Sims is one of those guys who creates shots for his teammates even when he doesn't have the basketball. And how do you explain that, Corey? What does he mean by that, and what Amir does for his teammates in so many different ways?
Well, one, when you draw a certain level of attention and the opponents have to know exactly where you are at all times when you're the top of the scouting report, that can often open up opportunities for your teammates simply with your presence on the floor, not even with you having to have the basketball. So I'm sure that that's part of it. But when you consider the fact that Amir Sims is a very cerebral player, his ability to pass the basketball and play the position like a guard in the post. And so when you consider that, even without the basketball, he's able to communicate with his teammates what's going to be open, what's going to be available. And one of the reasons why Brad Brownell put so much trust into his senior power forward.
Alex Hemingway was fouled on his drive. Duke with a 14-point lead. And Hemingway at the free throw line, the sophomore from Newburgh, Indiana, out of Castle High School.
These will just be the 3rd and 4th free throws for Clemson. Although Duke is now 8 for 10 at the free throw line, and that's been an area of concern for the Blue Devils all season long. Their opponents have actually attempted 43 more free throws coming into this game than the Blue Devils have. But I want to give Duke credit in this game for being aggressive, attacking the basket. Not everything has been settling for 3-point shots. When you consider, Jeremy Roach's first basket was going to the rim. Of course, Jalen Johnson has an emphatic basket going to the rim. But DJ Stewart, as well as Matthew Hurt, everyone has been attacking, and so much so that now Brad Brownell going to the zone defense to try to protect his team from foul trouble, but still nothing to be done with the 7-footer Mark Williams over the top.
7 points for the freshman from Virginia Beach. Yeah, that want to drive the basketball really showed itself in the win over Georgia Tech earlier this week, where they got more free throws than the Yellow Jackets, and we're seeing more of that. But even so, Corey, it's hard to believe that a Duke team is 297th in the country in free throws attempted.
Well, a lot of that has to do with their youth. So you consider that oftentimes young players want to attack with the jump shot, but Jalen Johnson and DJ Stewart getting out in transition, once again, an easy bucket, but able to finish it through the contact, so it's almost like just giving Jalen Johnson an extra point. If you're going to foul Jalen Johnson in this situation, and that's Clyde Trapp, you cannot go after the ball at that angle. He is too strong. So therefore, if you're going to allow him to get the basketball above his shoulders, he's going to score that every time, and he's shown that he can knock down free throws, although he misses that one there. But it turns out
Moore with his second made three, and the bench loves it.
In a 5-point possession for the Blue Devils, as DJ Stewart and Matthew Hurt celebrate on the bench. Coach Nate James not happy about the celebration, or maybe they just were in his way. He couldn't see the action going on the floor.
Tell you what, Wendell Moore is kind of the forgotten Dookie at this point. You know, he was second team preseason All-ACC, and he's had trouble shooting the basketball, although he's had an uptick lately. But if they can get him more involved in scoring the basketball, that just raises the ceiling that much more.
But the thing about Wendell Moore, you don't have to get him involved in scoring the basketball, Doug. To be completely honest, he's best as a playmaker. So when you consider the fact that if you put the basketball in his hands a little more, allow him to make plays for his teammates, a great passer and a great defender. Being on the floor more will allow him to have a better offensive production. As you see right now, Wendell Moore initiating the offense for the Blue Devils and really running the point guard position, even with Jeremy Roach and Jalen Johnson, two guys on the floor that could be point guards, as well as Jordan Goldwire. But that's what, you know, the level of respect that Coach K has for Wendell Moore as a playmaker. Even with all these guys on the floor, he can put the ball in Wendell Moore's hands.
Shot clock violation as Moore's shot was blocked. Still only shooting 34% from the floor coming in.
That's a long way up from the 1 for 21 stretch he had in 4 straight games before they went on their break, which Duke did not actually have a COVID pause of their own. They had games postponed because of their opponents, but it was a 21-day layoff for the Blue Devils, and it took them a while to really be able to recover from that. But right now, they're looking like the Duke Blue Devils that we were expecting to see all season long.
Coach K uses a timeout as his team struggled to get the ball into the front court. Let's take a look at the series history, and Clemson says that in games at Duke all time, it is 4-61. But Corey, I always get a kick out of it when the two old rivals have different statistics. Duke says in games against Clemson in Durham, it is 63-4. Who do you believe?
I'm going to play Switzerland on this one. I'm not going to go with either team as far as who I believe. I'm a big fan of both the Blue Devils as well as the Clemson Tigers, so therefore I'm not going to pick a side, but I will say that there have been some hard-fought games between these two teams. But, you know, one thing I would say about very few teams can say that they have a decent record playing at Duke in Cameron Indoor, so that might sway my decision a little more toward the Blue Devils' understanding. But again, you know, no one from Clemson would make up a win, right?
I'm just going to call you my Swiss friend from now on. Can you yodel for me, Corey?
Brad Brownell choosing to go with the zone in the last possession. P.J. Hall hopefully surviving, playing this final stretch with the 3 fouls.
Moore offensive rebound with 7 seconds. He attacks and gets blocked. 3 seconds, and then the whistle comes. Duke stepped, or no, the ball went out of bounds off of Clemson, so the Blue Devils will have one final shot. Going to bring Williams in and take Johnson out. Goldwire will be the trigger man along the baseline.
Well, if there's a screen set for someone going to the rim, it's going to be from Mark Williams. Throw it over the top.
Moore, no. And that ends the half. Great balance for the Blue Devils. The bench has produced. The starters have been good. And they have turned those Clemson turnovers into valuable points.
Well, and it's been a great offensive half for the Blue Devils. Defensively been even better, forcing Clemson into those 8 turnovers.
41-22 Duke. We send it back to the studio for the E-Trade halftime report.
All right, Doug.
You're watching Saturday Showcase presented by 5 Hour Energy. At Cameron Indoor Stadium, we are at the half. Clemson trailing Duke 41-22. Blue Devils have dominated pretty much from the start, having never trailed. They've made 14 field goals and have 10 assists on those 14 buckets. And welcome back, everybody, with Corey Alexander. I'm Doug Sherman. And among the facets of Duke's game we've seen on display so far today, Corey, they've been able to get out in transition.
And that's a key for the Blue Devils. When they're able to turn you over, get out in transition, get some easy buckets, it builds the confidence for their young players. And nothing can build your confidence more than what we saw from Jalen Johnson off of the steal. P.J. Hall making the wrong decision to jump with one of the best athletes in college basketball, and Jalen Johnson was able to finish over the top of the SportsCenter Top 10 nominee. And then it wasn't just Johnson, though. Jeremy Roach getting out in transition, finishing at the rim for his first bucket in 3 games. And then DJ Stewart pushing the break, getting it to Johnson. Once again, was able to finish through contact. And that's been the difference for the Blue Devils here in this first half.
Great balance for Duke. Matthew Hurt has 8, 7 apiece for Roach and Williams off the bench. And 6 points for Wendell Moore. Meanwhile, for Clemson, their lead scorer, not surprisingly, Amir Sims. But he's got 3 personal fouls, Corey. What can Clemson do to chip away here?
Well, one of the things you would like to see him do is come out and get a stop on the first possession, which did not turn out that way for them as Duke knocks down another 3 to increase the lead to 22. But you may want to consider playing the zone. And I know Brad Brownell doesn't like zone, but in order to protect Amir Sims and keep him on the floor, and also what that does, Coach K actually went to Mark Williams. And although Mark Williams had a great first half, I would prefer to see him on when I've got to play defense in comparison to having Matthew Hurt or, you know, one of the other guys on that block area, simply because he puts so much pressure on you throwing the ball over the top of the rim. So tough decisions for Brad Brownell right now, but somehow or another they're going to have to find a way to slow down this Duke offense because they're firing on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, Corey, you mentioned during that first half as Clemson attacks off the inbound that, you know, this freshman class came in number 2 rated in the entire country. And just because you're Mark Williams or Henry Coleman III and you're not getting regular minutes doesn't mean you're not pretty good.
Well, and also it doesn't mean that, you know, because you don't get off to a great start that your season is finished. You know, Mark Williams didn't play a lot early this year, but you've seen what he's done in his last 3 halves, 6.6 rebounds against Georgia Tech on Tuesday night, and he comes back in with 7 points here to start in the first half today. So, you know, stick with the program. And so many times, you know, in this society now, you want microwave results. But give Mark Williams a lot of credit for staying the course, sticking with his coach and his team, and giving them moments, staying prepared and ready when he got his opportunities.
There you see the 7-foot freshman from Virginia Beach, building on what was a really good performance the last time out Tuesday in the win over Georgia Tech, having a big first half here this afternoon. And as we talked off the top, Duke really doesn't have that signature win yet this year. They had their pause, or a couple of pauses, but there are still games to be won ahead, and you've got to figure before this is over, Corey, while they're on the outside looking into the NCAA tournament right now, a win here today would get them maybe back in the conversation to get them on that tournament bubble.
Well, and not just a win today, but when you consider the fashion as to which is going right now with a 25-point lead as Brad Brownell calls a timeout, this win may mean a little more for the Blue Devils, especially when you consider the difference between the two.
This is a Clemson team with a pretty good tournament resume. They've beaten power conference opponents Mississippi State, Purdue, Maryland, Alabama, Florida State, and then Louisville last time out, 25th ranked team in the country. But Corey, as you can see during this last time out, once again, Coach Brownell looking for answers.
Well, and Coach Brownell has a right to be frustrated when you consider the fact of the effort that Clemson put forward in the first half defensively, and then you come out in the first 2 possessions of the second half and give up wide open threes to the Blue Devils, especially Matthew Hurt knocking down the 3 at the top of the key. At some point, someone has to stand up and take accountability for where they want to be as a team, and it didn't happen, you know, coming out of the locker room. And so when you force your coach to have to burn that timeout and then you get beat out in transition defensively, I mean, when you look at it, this is an 8-0 run to start the second half for the Blue Devils. After the conversations from Coach Brownell, whatever it's taken at halftime, no one has responded for Clemson to this point, and Brad Brownell has every right to be frustrated.
Sims trying to be that guy. They go into him for a second straight possession coming out of that timeout, and he is 0 for 2.
And comes away from that scrum fortunate, because he actually extended that left elbow, and that could have been an offensive foul, which would have been his 4th foul. So fortunately for Amir Sims, that wasn't called. But right now, I mean, Duke shooting 49% from the field, Clemson shooting 26. This is a Clemson team that is leading the ACC with a defensive average of 62.4 points per game on the season. But in ACC play, they're giving up 71 a game. And right now, the Blue Devils with 52 points and 17 minutes remaining in this game, it's looking like they're going to go way over 70. And especially with Clemson giving them 0 resistance on the defensive end.
And we knew coming into this season, you know, coast to coast, it was going to be a strange year because of what's going on in the country. But Clemson epitomizes that as Sims has the putback. I mean, again, I said they've got all these power conference wins, some very good wins. But this is now the 4th time in 5 games coming out of their COVID pause, Corey, that Clemson has really been taken to the woodshed.
But the problem with it, Doug, is you kind of felt as though they had recovered. They had gotten over that point. You know, when you look at the win over Louisville, a 54-50 game, the defense was on point going up against the Cardinals, which is a very good team and a team that had just beaten Duke previously. So you feel as though you're moving in the right direction. You're, you know, shaking off that rust, getting rid of that COVID break. And to come in and have the type of performance that they've had here has to be frustrating and disappointing for Coach Brownell and his staff.
Matthew Hurt, one of 3 Blue Devils in double figures so far this afternoon. He's got 11, as does Wendell Moore. 10 points for DJ Stewart. Ten to shoot. Stewart puts it on the deck. Goldwire thinks about it. Here's Hurt with a foot on the line. Front rimmed it. Well, when we come back to Cameron Indoor Stadium, we will remember the late John Chaney, the Hall of Famer who passed away yesterday. And he was a longtime friend of Coach K. Jacksonville, Florida native, but Philadelphian through and through, John Chaney died yesterday at the age of 89. He won a Division II national championship as the head coach at Chaney State. And then, of course, for a quarter century, he was the head coach at Temple, where he led the Owls to 5 Elite Eights. Coach Krzyzewski, as part of a moment of silence before our game this afternoon, remembering his old friend, they went into the Naismith Hall of Fame in the same class 20 years ago. John Chaney will not be forgotten as a titan of the industry. And Coach K told us yesterday, right after getting word of John Chaney's death, that he got to know Coach Chaney well in the late 80s and early 90s through the NABC as they worked on racial inequities in college basketball. And Coach K told us yesterday that John taught him to better understand what it's like to be African American. Corey?
Well, and Coach Chaney taught all of us that. And when you consider the fact, I mean, and just look at that Hall of Fame class, Moses Malone, rest in peace, the great, as well as now Coach John Chaney. But that's one of the things, and we talk about John Thompson and what he did for the sport. Well, Coach Chaney was the same. I mean, you talk about 2 men who specified in taking young African-American males out of bad situations and not only helping them on the court, but helping them become better people, and more importantly, using education as the key to being able to do so. I'm a very good friend with many of Coach Chaney's former players, Eric Brunson, Eddie Jones, Aaron McKee, Deion Dakins. And when you think about what he was about, education first, basketball second, and making young men, not just basketball players, which is what his legacy will be left behind.
And Coach K was quick to point out, as you mentioned, John Thompson Jr., as well as George Raveling. The 3 of them in that time back in the 80s and 90s did so much for the sport in general, but for young black men all around the country. And they all trace their roots back to John McClendon, who really was the godfather to each of them. He was the first African-American to be a Division I head coach at Cleveland State in a role at a predominantly white, traditional European-American university. And John Thompson Jr. in his home had a trophy, had a statue of John McClendon. And so it's all part of the same fraternity that these are folks, John Chaney yesterday, who we will not be able to replace. And also doing some digging, Coach K, very modestly said, yeah, we played Temple a few times. He didn't specify that twice Duke played Temple in the Elite Eight, Corey. The Owls made it there 5 times, never got to the Final Four. Twice Coach K denied the Owls from getting there, including in 1988 when Temple was the #1 team in the country. They went into the postseason tournament as the team to beat. And it was Duke that took them down in the Elite Eight before Duke ultimately lost in the Final Four to the eventual champion, Andy Manning and the Kansas Jayhawks. But Temple really had it going there in the 80s and 90s.
It did, and I had the opportunity to be briefly recruited by John Chaney. And I always remember Temple because of Mark Macon. And not that Temple didn't have a bunch of great players, but I can remember Mark Macon as a freshman coming out the gates averaging over 20 points per game. And that just really showed me that Coach Chaney was about, because really up to that point you didn't see much about freshmen coming in and having big numbers like that. Wayman Tisdale did it at Oklahoma maybe a couple years prior, but other than that you didn't see it often. But Mark Macon as a guard coming in, putting up huge numbers. And I always remembered Coach Chaney allowing his guys to play. But then, of course, and you think Temple basketball, John Chaney, you think 5 a.m. practices. And that's why I was only briefly recruited by Coach Chaney, because I wasn't getting up that early to go to practice.
And could you have fit into his matchup zone?
Yes. I could have done the matchup zone. I just couldn't do the 5 a.m. practices. I mean, but I love Coach Chaney.
Today. Tip-off today's a little early for you.
It was very early for me today. I woke up at halftime. Well, I'm sorry. I woke up when Jalen Johnson jumped over P.J. Hall. But we were already on air probably about 15, 20 minutes by then.
And I do want to say that our SportsCenter colleague, Kevin Nagandi, who's a Temple alumnus and who got to know John Chaney well during his undergraduate years at Temple, did a marvelous job remembering Coach Chaney last night on SportsCenter. He touched so many lives. Dana O'Neill with a wonderful write-up last night on The Athletic. So if you don't know, look him up. Google John Chaney, and you will get a sense of the impact that man has had.
Well, he's one of the pillars of Philly. You think John Chaney, you think Sonny Hill, of course, Wilt Chamberlain. But, when you talk Philly basketball, you're talking about John Chaney in the first, few sentences when you speak about the names of the people who have had such an impact on that area. And, of course, Philly has been second to none when it comes to talent and basketball talent that they put out into the world.
And again, it took him forever to get a Division I head coaching job, despite having won a Division II national championship at a historically black college, Chaney State, outside of Philadelphia. Jeremy Roach with another bucket. You see he's joined the group in double figures. Duke just extends its lead again, 63-31.
Right now, it's just easy for Duke when they have the basketball, and which, and you don't expect to see that against a Clemson, especially a Brad Brownell coach Clemson team. They are always hanging their hat on their defense and have done so a lot this season. This is reminiscent to the game that they played a couple Saturdays ago against Virginia, where Virginia beat Clemson by 35 points in Littlejohn Coliseum. But Clemson was coming off of an 11-day break at that point, coming off of a big win on Wednesday night. I was not expecting this type of performance from the Tigers.
Duke will have it when we come back to Cameron Indoor Stadium, where just like all around college basketball, we remember the late John Chaney. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by DiGiorno. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno. With Corey Alexander, I'm Doug Sherman at Cameron Indoor Stadium as the Blue Devils of Duke have dominated Clemson from the start. And while Jordan Goldwire is not one of their 4 double-figure scorers, he's just doing what he does, Corey. Back in the starting lineup, 5 assists, no turnovers. He leads the ACC in assist-to-turnover ratio. And as a team, 17 turnovers, or rather 17 assists to only 5 turnovers so far for Duke as a squad.
And that's been a big area of concern for the Blue Devils. They have turned the basketball over way too much this season, so Jordan Goldwire kind of steadying the ship on the floor has been definitely a calming force for this group. And when you consider the fact that when they are getting shots, they're shooting the basketball at 55% throughout this game, 43% from beyond the three-point arc. So if you're Duke, give yourself a chance and find a way to get shots up, because when you're getting wide open looks as they have in this entire second half especially, it's going to be some big-time numbers put up from a lot of different guys. Goldwire not doing it in the scoring category, but he's doing it everywhere else.
Yeah, he just got the rebound tip and what would be a hockey assist for the slam by Mark Williams, who blocks the shot at the other end. And here come the Blue Devils once again.
And a beautiful find right there from Jalen Johnson. We talked about what is his best attributes with Mike Schmitz, and you see it right there, just getting out in transition, finding his teammates, making the right play.
And so young Mr. Williams heads to the free throw line. Of course, his older sister was an All-American multiple times over for the Blue Devils. This week's NBA Saturday primetime matchup on ABC and the ESPN app. LeBron and the Lakers visit the Garden in Boston to battle the rival Celtics. Coverage begins with NBA Countdown at 8 Eastern. And you know, in the Duke notes, Corey, they say that 27 former Dukies are currently in the NBA. Can you name the former Blue Devils who will be in that game Monday between the Lakers and the Celtics?
Quinn Cook for the Lakers, Jason Tatum for the Celtics. Let me see, is there anyone else in that mix?
There's one more, and I don't think he's included in that Duke number. I don't think they claim him. That's my clue to you about who the other former Blue Devil is in that game Monday.
Oh, you got tricky on me.
I did.
He's not included in the Blue Devil notes, but he's a Dookie.
He's a Dookie. I said Monday. I mean tonight. Yeah, the Saturday primetime game tonight on ABC. A third former Mike Krzyzewski recruit is in there. You mentioned Jason Tatum. You mentioned Quinn Cook. He transferred from Duke to SMU.
Oh, Simi.
Mr. Ojale.
Yeah, okay.
He's carved out a nice niche in the NBA for himself as well.
Well, now, see, you're big on that because you want to refer to the first school, but yet that's not always the case. You always want to go to the high school where they attended first, not the high school where they graduated from. So are you giving Duke credit for Semi Ojale in comparison to SMU?
No, not at all. It's not about the first. It's about not forgetting where they're from. He is a former Blue Devil, regardless of whether you want to say he was a Mustang or not. I give Larry Brown, I give Tim Jankovic, all those guys, all the credit in the world for helping develop. But you can't just erase history. He spent 2 years in Durham playing a Cameron.
And I'm sure he benefit from doing that as you consider the numbers, 28 NBA draft lottery selections. I mean, that's just the top 14 picks. We're not talking about draft picks. We're talking about the top 14 picks. He probably has more top 3 picks than anyone as well when you consider what Coach K has been able to do over his 41 years as the man in charge in Durham for the Blue Devils. But I'm not sure that there really is a record college basketball-wise other than NCAA championships, which no one will ever see John Wooden, that he hasn't broken.
Yeah, I mean, they have how many pages in the notes every game just on Coach K's accomplishments?
I'm an environmentalist. I do not even print those pages. Just letting you know now. Not even printing those pages. I have been covering this program and this gentleman a long time, and most of those records I know by like the back of my hand, so I don't even bother printing those pages out. But just phenomenal what he's been able to do in college basketball as well as international competition throughout his tenure as the head coach at Duke and USA Basketball.
Yeah, just a couple of weeks shy of his 74th birthday, the winningest coach in college basketball history and proud native of the north side of Chicago.
And you know what? We're talking birthdays. Happy birthday to my guy, Ted Jeffries, of course, my center at UVA, but also got to send a birthday shout out to Clemson's finest, 6th pick, 1994 draft. My guy, Sharon Wright. Big fella, hope you're doing well. And miss hearing from you. You still got my number. Reach out every now and then. Say hello, you know.
Any other personal bidding you want to do on this national broadcast?
I would say still planning to put DePaul on you at some point when I see you.
Again, I'm glad there's about 600 miles separating us.
You know that would never be the case between you and I, Dougie Fresh. You are my guy.
No. I have no worries with you, CA.
Except for when it comes to Virginia, Syracuse. Other than that, we're good.
Yeah, that's probably best that we're in a different time zone for that one. And that going out of bounds is going to take us to our next break. So we'll step away. All Duke Blue Devils this afternoon in the ACC. Yeah, Kevin, you've got two guys here surprised at that score so far. And we're surprised, I think, Corey, that this one's so lopsided. But when you get balanced like this, the Blue Devils are going to be really tough to beat.
They are. When you look at Jalen Johnson with 9 points, who could possibly be the 6th member of the Blue Devils to get into double figures, you have to like the offensive effort from the Blue Devils. But more importantly, 38 points, only giving up 38. The struggle for them has been on the defensive end of the floor this year. And Duke playing better defensively. Brad Brownell told us he felt as though he saw Duke turning the corner. Even in those losses, he felt like they were playing better and starting to figure things out. And when they got Jalen Johnson back in the mix, he felt like it would only be a matter of time. And that matter of time just happened to happen against his Clemson Tigers here this afternoon.
So after stopping their 3-game losing streak by beating Georgia Tech the last time out, Hurt with another 3. And then with an impressive performance so far here this afternoon, Corey, what do you make of Duke big picture right now?
Well, I said before, even when they were in the 3-game skid, I think they'll make it to the NCAA tournament. But, you know, the benefits of playing in the ACC is they're going to play against a bunch of really good teams from here throughout the remainder of the season. They've got 2 games against North Carolina, and right now there's only a 19.6 chance BPI for them to make the tournament. But the way they're playing, if they can keep everyone healthy, they're able to get on a roll and beat some good teams. I mean, you think you've got to play Virginia still. You've got to play Florida State still. You got North Carolina at least 2 times. You know, and what's looking like a win against Clemson, which is a quality win. I believe they have to go to Georgia Tech. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I think they do go to Georgia Tech and get another opportunity against the Blue Jackets. So the Yellow Jackets, sorry. And so when you think about that, they've got enough opportunities to find their way into the tournament.
Yeah, they'll be in Atlanta on March the 2nd. Always rising ACC Network men's basketball today. Miami and Wake Forest at 2 o'clock Eastern. 16th ranked Florida State back at it in a big game against Georgia Tech at 4 p.m. on what is a extremely busy afternoon and evening of hoops on the ACC Network. Your Hoos take on the Hokies at 6 o'clock and then Notre Dame Pittsburgh 8 o'clock. If you don't have ACC Network, what is wrong with you? Come on. Go to getaccn.com and figure out how you can watch the rest of the action this afternoon and this evening.
So you're allowed to say what is wrong with you? You can say that? Okay. So should I have said, when P.J. Hall jumped with Jalen Johnson, should I have said, P.J., what is wrong with you? Why did you do that? Okay, all right. So I didn't want, I mean, again, I don't want to be harsh, but that's what I was thinking. Or I was more so thinking, P.J., what were you thinking on that play?
I think it's okay.
Okay. As long as you say so.
Want to follow my lead, yeah. If you want to follow my lead, go ahead.
Well, that means you get fired first.
I'll see you on the unemployment line, buddy.
And back to your trivia question. So I didn't look at my phone. My guy, the ninth wonder, Grammy Award-winning producer, was texting me the answer to your trivia question where you had me stumped with Semi Ojeleye. He was trying to let me know. And ninth, of course, a professor here at Duke University as well as North Carolina Central University for the past decade. So if I would have just looked at my phone, I would have gotten that right. I've got resources, Dougie Fresh. I just did not think about it to go to it. But next time, ninth, just, call me. So I look at my phone, I'll hear it instead of the text. I don't hear that when I got my headphones on.
No, as soon as we got to break, as Hemingway lays it in for Clemson, Corey's like, oh, ninth had me. Should have looked at my phone. 72-44 Duke. Jordan Goldwire still on the floor, a little deeper into the bench for Duke to allow some other folks like Joey Baker, Jamin Brakefield to get extended minutes. Baker back on the bench after having made his second three-point shot. And there's Goldwire getting himself on the board. And to put a bow also on what you were talking big picture with Duke, that if they stay healthy, if they continue to defend better and get this sort of balance, Sims will have a chance for a three-point play. And oh, by the way, they've got a guy in charge, him, who's won 5 national championships. And as you said, 3 Olympic gold medals as the head coach. He's been to 12 Final Fours. They have that advantage in most matchups where he is on the bench.
Well, and also I think that people forget about the fact that Jalen Johnson missed time for the Blue Devils. So when you consider, the way they started the season, but you get Jalen Johnson back. He only played 4 minutes versus Virginia Tech. Wasn't supposed to play in that game. Coach K put him in simply because they couldn't get anything going. But then they had a week to get him back acclimated. He comes out against Pittsburgh, goes for 24 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists, almost messed around and got a triple-double, Dougie Fresh. and you see, his ability to make his teammates better is huge for this Blue Devil team. His ability to rebound, push the basketball, get them out in transition. And that was an element they were missing during that stretch, as well as his ability to be able to defend multiple positions. So that is a difference maker, having him back in the lineup. And for as great of a player as Jalen Johnson is, one thing I did find out this week, he can't win a game of horse in his house. Mom Stacy is the horse champion, and not only against Jalen, but against her husband Rod and younger son Kobe, who's a USC commit, Southern Cal, USC commit, and Mom Stacy is knocking everybody down in horse.
And older brother Rod, who's at Western Illinois, he doesn't have anything to say about it either.
Nobody got nothing to do with Mama. Stacy is queen in the house.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by 5 Hour Energy Shots. Get it done. KC, thanks so much. With Corey Alexander, I'm Doug Sherman. And is this the most impressive performance so far this year, Corey, for the Blue Devils?
It is because of the opponent. When you consider the fact that Clemson is a good team, regardless of their showing tonight, they are a good team and they are a good defensive team with a very good defensive coach. So when you come out and you do this, it shows you that you're progressing offensively. And also what they've been able to do defensively against the Tigers has been spectacular as well. So I do believe that this is the best performance that Duke has had this year, especially when you consider the opponents that they did it against.
And I love the balance on offense. 5 different players in double figures, and then Jalen Johnson sitting on 9. Nice back cut, easy layup.
Right now, Clemson really relegated to the zone. And they had to deal with that because of so much foul trouble in this game. Brad Brownell is a man-to-man coach, does not like to play the zone. And it's also difficult to rebound out of the zone. But right now you see Duke moving the basketball extremely well against it. But when you have the shooters that the Blue Devils have, it's going to be difficult to play against this team in the zone defense solely because they can stretch it so well.
Sims off the steal, and nice feed by Nick Honor with the slam.
And, you know, we saw Nick Honor with a huge 21-point performance against NC State in overtime, made the big shot against NC State, but we haven't seen the same Nick Honor since the COVID pause that Clemson had to go on, that 11-day break, coming back against Virginia. And Nick Honor just has not been the same player that we got used to seeing throughout that stretch on either end of the floor, not only offensively shooting the basketball, but his pressure defensively. And he is a big part of Clemson's success. They need him to get back to that point, and he's a veteran player. We talk about a transfer from Fordham, and right now just 3 points for him, 1 for 7 from the field and 1 for 6 from three-point range. And I believe that his shooting has affected what he's been able to do defensively as well.
We had a neat conversation yesterday with Coach Brownell where we asked him about Nick Honor, and he said, I wasn't smart enough to offer him coming out of high school ball in Florida. I was too focused on, well, he's not tall enough, he's not quick enough, and ignored the fact that, well, he can really shoot and score the basketball. And he said the other thing was his freshman year at Fordham, where he made all freshmen in the A-10. He said that Nick Honor was on the Corey Alexander style of playing basketball, that he shot it every time he touched it.
Well, no, not every time. Most times. Sometimes they double team me, Doug. I had to give the ball up. But anyway, Nick Honor doing the job defensively on that possession. Again, that's what he is. He's a disruptor. He disrupts teams defensively, gets underneath the guards, picking up full court. But, you know, when you get guys in foul trouble and you have to play a zone, there's not really many opportunities to do that. And also, when you're not scoring the basketball, you don't have those opportunities for full court pressure. So Clemson's offense really, in my opinion, kind of bogged them down today in this game. And we've seen that a number of times from them, but that was not the case against Louisville, where they struggled offensively. They still did the job defensively, and that's where you kind of felt like Brad Brownell's team had turned that corner where they didn't have to rely on scoring to win games.
That was just the 16th foul against Duke. You see the scoring the previous 4 games for Clemson. Coach K also talked about the fact that they have been emphasizing in practice and during games to defend without fouling, keep your hands off, and by and large they've done very well with that here today.
Jordan Goldwire coming up with the steal, unable to finish it, but doing what he does best, the second best in the ACC, steals per game at 2.5. He comes up with another there, doesn't make the layup, but Jeremy Roach, not giving up on the play, gets his easiest bucket of the day.
Long rebound tracked down by Olivier Maxence Prosper. We have a full day of college hoops today on ESPN and the app. Number 15 Kansas squares off against number 18 Tennessee, 6 o'clock Eastern. And then at 8, the number 1 team in the country, Gonzaga, takes on Pepperdine. And Sean Farnham's going to be on that call, Corey, and he assures me there is no snow in the forecast for tonight in Malibu.
Thank you, Sean Farnham, for the, absolutely. Well, I know he was going nuts. I mean, you know, Farnham is as West Coast as you can get. So when you consider him seeing snow, I'm sure that was not, it was culture shock.
That was once in every 14 years snowstorm that they see in Malibu. Final 45 seconds at Cameron Indoor. Duke on the verge of winning its 2nd in a row and improving to 5-3 in league play. And we showed the top half of the standings coming into the broadcast, Corey, and talked about how important this was for both of these two teams, and Duke continues to trend in the right direction.
I agree. As our guy Henry Coleman misses a dunk on that possession. I don't know if we have time, but Doug, I got a bone to pick. Richmond Business Magazine named Henry Coleman one of the 100 people to meet in Virginia. Do you know who else lives in Richmond, Doug?
I think I'm looking at him on a Zoom call right now.
That would be me, and I'm not on that list. I do not understand how this happened. How does 19-year-old Henry Coleman make a list of the 100 Virginians you want to meet, yet I don't make that list?
I think the word you're looking for, Corey, is introspection.
No, that's not the word I'm looking. No. The words I'm looking for is what about me? That's what I was looking for. Introspection. We're not talking about that. But what about me? That's what we're talking about right now.
Well, as you've now used this national platform for, I think, 4 of your grievances, your personal grievances today, is there anything else?
You better be glad the time's about to run out. I got a whole list of them. Proud of that young fella, though. Proud of Henry Coleman. Love what he's doing and what he's bringing to the Blue Devils.
Final thought, Corey?
Strong performance by the Blue Devils. Clemson's got to go back to the drawing board on their defense, but strong performance from Jalen Johnson and his crew in this one today.
Another win for Coach K and the Duke Blue Devils. Very impressive, 79-53, a blowout at Cameron. We send it back to the studio. Kevin Connors and the guys to get you up to date on college basketball this Saturday.
All right, Doug, thanks so much.